Welcome back to the channel. And in this video, I'm going to show you how to create violin plots using datamallet. A violin plot is just a very common type of data visualization tool or chart that helps you to show the distribution of numeric data across different categories. So for that, we have, our dataset here, which is a tips dataset. It's a pandas data frame. We have our usual imports. Of course, before you can get to use this library, you want to do pip install datamallet. As of this recording, it's currently version 0.19. Of course, that will change in the future, of course. So, but whatever it is, I advise you install the most recent version, so that way you always get the most up-to-date changes to this library. So that being said, this is what we're going to import. Everything we're pretty much going to import the create violin function from the datamallet visualization plot library, and we get our column type. So let me show you what this is. This is just a utility function that helps to determine the data type of all the columns in a data frame. So even if your column or your data frame has 100 columns, it's able to go through each of them and determine, okay, this is numeric, this is Boolean, this is categorical, and things like that. So we just need to specify that, and you can see this column types is actually a dictionary with this specific keys: numeric, object, Boolean, categorical, date time, and time delta. So that's good. Now this is how we use the function, and we know that this function, create violin function, returns a list of plotly graph objects. So this is essentially what you have here is going to be a list. And so of course, because the list, you can iterate through it as you would any other list, any other Python list. So the key things you need to specify, the data frame and the column types, at the minimum. All these others have very good default values, which, is fine. You don't have to change the default. The default, I believe, are good enough. So essentially what that means is that with just this one short line of code, you can have all the violin charts in your data set created, with just this one line of code, right? But of course, I want to show you what all the defaults actually are and what they can do. And so because of that, I'm going to specify every single thing. Now, behind the scene, when you use the autoplot class, it does call this helper function behind the scene. So just, FYI. And I do plan to create a video that's going to walk through datamallet's core concept itself, so that, you can have a very good overview of the library itself. But yeah, moving on, let's go ahead and discuss, what the other attributes of this function actually mean. So yes, if you want to create an HTML file, you can specify true here. Now, when you have your violin plots, there are several ways you can do it. You can visualize your different violin plots as a group. You can specify if you want to be overlay. You can specify if you want, there are different options. So the options that exist within Plotly Express also exist here. And if I walk you through the code, let me show you here. When you go to the create violin code, you can see that there are lots of statements that ensures that the right type of options are actually specified here. So for violin mode, you can specify group or overlay. So, but here, next we have points. Do you want to show all the points? Do you want to show just the outliers? Do you want to display the box, true or false? What orientation do you want? And you can also specify the color. Now, out of all of this is very important, because you can specify how many violin, like actual individual violin diagrams, do you want in your plot. and this number would determine what columns would be plotted ahead of what. Okay, so let me show you what I mean by that. We have everything here. I think 7 is a good number. Let's just run this. So if we just run this, we are done creating all the violin plots you can have for this data set. Okay, so let's just do a simple, go through a simple for loop here. Now, what you'd also notice is this HTML file, violin.html, was also created. So that's good. But this is it here. You see, all of these options, all of this were actually created using just those few lines of code. Okay. All of these were created using just those few lines of code. So let's open this violin HTML. And let's say we trust it. And you can see this just shows total bill across the sex category, total bill across the smoker category, total bill across the day, total bill across the time. Now tip across sex, smoker, day, time. Now it looks at size, So it pretty much does this in an iterative fashion, looks at all the numeric columns, then looks at each of those numeric columns across the different categories. Okay, so that's really good. Now, if instead I specify that, okay, I want to specify the color and I want to specify that the maximum number of violin plots would be 2, we'll have a very different outcome. So let me show you what that's going to look like. Let's say I want to just create this. Let me just copy everything. It's fine. Okay, I come here, copy this, but instead I change this maximum to 2. And let's say I specify color. I want it to be colored by, let's say, the sex column. I could do this, and that should greatly reduce the number of chats that's going to come out. So let me just copy this. I don't want to have to retype that as well. So call it here. Now you'd see that something different happened. We have, something is missing here. In this case, where we have the day option on the x-axis, you'd notice if you go through here, there's no such thing as day on the x-axis, and that's because we specified the maximum number to be 2. So anything more than 2 would not be here. Now you'd also notice that we specified the color, right? So in the first visual we didn't specify the color, here we did. And yeah, that's pretty much how it goes when it comes to creating violin plots using datamallet. Now, of course, you can also go through the route of, I have my upper functions here, let me just copy it out. You can also go through the route of using the autoplot class. I do have an example of that in one of my previous videos, but I believe that that's a good example. It's only good to use the autoplot class when you want to create every single type of plot, because it does come with a good amount of boilerplate code. But if you're just focused, okay, you just want to look at the violin plots distribution, that's all you care about, then you can definitely use this function and create all these specs and you should be good. So that's how you create all the violin plots using the datamallet library. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next video.